In this video, I'm going to show you how the Game Changers went full Tropic Thunder, and this is part one. In this video, I'm going to show you how James Wilks actually promoted meat eating without knowing that he did it. Quite astonishing. So the best way to view the Game Changers is, frankly, another fiction movie by James Cameron. So you've got Terminator, Pandora, whatever else he did, and the Game Changers. So I will show you by the end of this video that if you eat meat like this, you have nothing to worry about. So at about 28:30 into the Game Changers is when Wilks says that if he brings up this hamburger, this is the burger study he brought up twice. And if you watched the video, you saw that the title just passed up there for a few seconds. And you probably didn't recognize that it was an avocado plus burger study. In any event, at about 28:30, he talks about the inflammatory potential of a single animal meal and how it will reduce recovery after exercise because of inflammation and reduced blood flow called vasoconstriction. So, is that true? Well, you have to look at what they measured. I can tell you in advance, it's not true at all. So this is directly from the paper. You can see postprandial after eating, plasma interleukin-6 levels increased by 70%. And this is what led James Wilks to say that inflammation increases by 70% after eating a burger. Now, what he didn't tell you is that they also measured TNF-alpha, which is a pro-inflammatory cytokine, which is a pro-inflammatory protein, interleukin-8, another pro-inflammatory protein cytokine, and of course IL-6, just like IL-8 and TNF, they're all cytokines. So it turns out that no elevation occurred for TNF, and IL-8 was undetectable. So there was not a 70% increase in inflammation. There was simply a 70% increase in interleukin-6 levels. And the question you've got to ask yourself, well, is it relevant? And so here are the charts in the article. You can see it says serum, it was plasma. So IL-6 picograms per milliliter, and again, plasma, TNF also. So you remember from the previous image I showed you that TNF levels didn't change. So this is why, because you can see here, this is irrelevant changes. So basically, it was about 3.8, and it remained like that throughout the 6-hour time period that they pulled the blood. So burger by itself, burger on avocado, no relationship to TNF-driven inflammation. Then up top here you can see burger by itself, burger with avocado. You see he never mentioned in the movie that it was a burger and a burger avocado study. So here you can see, let's do burger and avocado first. You can see this is considered to be irrelevant, that move there. So totally irrelevant. This is what they're claiming this blip here, which is, if you go right across, this is about 7.15-ish. This is 4.2. If you take 4.2 times 0.7, you get 70% of that. You plop up to about 7.15. That's where the 70% is. So the question is, what if you were a patient and you decided to have your IL-6 measured for some reason, and you came in at an 8.5? Should you be concerned? Because Wilks already told us that just this 70% increase in IL-6 is going to compromise healing after exercise. So you first have to know what normal levels of IL-6 are. And we go to LabCorp, we get a sample test report, and what do we see? Normal range for plasma interleukin-6. Here's plasma interleukin-6. And here it is, picograms per ml. Normal range, 0 to 12.2. So back to the big chart from the article that Wilks misrepresented. And you can see picograms per ml, exact same measurement. This would be 12.2. This is 0. And so that means that the measurement before they ate and during it were all normal, all fine. So there is no inflammation after eating a burger by itself. Completely irrelevant. Just that fact alone should make you question basically everything else that he said bad about meat in the movie. Now, obviously, vegetables are good for you. I mean, only an idiot would argue that. And of course, they let sugar and flour and refined oil slide, which is shocking because the average American gets about 60% of their calories from sugar, flour, and refined oils. Refined sugar, refined flour, and refined oils. Yeah, my voice, by the way, massive pollen attack, so I'm dealing with that. So what else should we know about IL-6? IL-6 is a very interesting cytokine. You can see here, exercise and IL-6. And you can see here, after a marathon race, there's a 100-fold increase in IL-6. Here's another one. IL-6 signaling has been associated with stimulation of hypertrophic muscle growth and myogenesis through proliferative capacity of muscle stem cells. This means that the increase of interleukin-6 after exercise actually stimulates muscle growth. Muscle stem cells are called satellite cells, and satellite cells differentiate into muscle cells. And so this is driven by IL-6, which is why inflammation is part of exercise. And the way you look at it is very simple. And here's a study that looked at it with various types of exercise for various periods of time and then in recovery afterwards. But here's what they show us. You can see once again that IL-6 is picograms per ml. This is from the article I just cited right there before the previous image. This is the Game Changers hamburger increase, and this is normal. So anything below blue is normal. So clearly exercise blasts IL-6. And Noah would say that exercise itself is going to inhibit recovery because that's what exercise does. So IL-6 doesn't raise up enough to do anything here, but you can see that this IL-6 story of theirs is complete and utter bunk. Based on this alone, you should just put your earmuffs on and ignore or view the Game Changers just like Pandora, 10-foot blue people. So what about vasoconstriction? Well, I can tell you I don't know how to interpret peripheral artery tonometry. But let's just say, because you see in the movie, there's a 20% reduced blood supply after a burger. Let's say that is true, and you still wanted to eat meat. What should you do? Very simple. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to show you something else first. If it was true that eating meat was going to massively compromise blood supply, then people like the Maasai, you can see the Maasai warriors in Africa, their traditional diet is raw meat, raw milk, and raw blood from the cattle. No heart disease. When I say no heart disease, I mean nothing like modern industrialized man. And this guy, Stefansson, good luck saying his name, Vilhjalmur? Vilhjalmur. So Stefansson, you can see he was born in 1879 in Manitoba, Canada. He was, I think his family is Scandinavian, obviously. Died in 1962. And what this guy did, he lived with the Arctic natives, the Arctic Eskimos, for 9 years. Not straight, but for 9 years. You can see the books you can read about. My Life with the Eskimos, The Friendly Arctic, Not by Bread Alone, The Fat of the Land. Now, these I think are the same books. He just changed the name just to irritate the breaditarians and the anti-meat eaters that were anti-meat way back when Stefansson hung out with the Eskimos. So Stefansson came back from his trip, one of his trips at one point, and he's explaining his experience, and people thought he was crazy. So he, for an entire year, lived in New York City, and he ate every single meal at Bellevue Hospital, which was not I'm not sure if Bellevue is still open, but back after Stefansson, Bellevue became a mental hospital. So he ate only meat for a year. Every meal he ate was at Bellevue along with one of his colleagues. And just like everybody else, most people with meat, they're afraid of fat, so they forced Stefansson to eat very lean meat. And he, within a week, he got diarrhea, because if you eat just lean meat, that's one of the outcomes. It trashes your gut. So Stefansson explains, and I think I've got the fat of the land. He explains that the Eskimo traditional diet is 80%, it's animal product, at least 8 months of the year probably, and 80% of the calories come from fat, and only 20% came from lean. So it's just shocking. And I mean, imagine trucking around the Arctic, freezing cold winters. You know how difficult that is? How you have to have great blood flow? Well, same thing for these guys. They walk all day long. They exercise. The Messiah Warriors, they got this jumping thing that they do. You can't have bad blood flow and do all that stuff. So the best way to look at this, and so you can avoid the insanity in the fiction movie The Game Changers, is to consider the work of Weston Price. You can get this book on Amazon. So Weston Price did, and I forget the years, it was like 1920 to 1935-ish, I think, is when he did it. He went to various native cultures, and he compared the natives eating the way they traditionally ate versus those who were exposed to westernized food, which was basically flour and sugar back then. And at some point, the refined oils kind of kicked in there too. I think Crisco might have been one of the first ones. I can't say for sure. And what he found is that every population, if they ate their traditional diet, they were robustly healthy, and those who added white sugar, white flour into their diets, they became sick. And so white sugar, white flour, refined oils, those are the problematic foods. So we'll get back to this one here. So this is let's say this is even true, 27% decrease in blood flow. What should you do to deal with that situation? Because let's say if you want to eat meat, and this is true, what do? This is where the avocado comes in. So when they added the avocado to the burger, now they didn't use any bread at all. It was just plain meat or meat with avocado. When they added the avocado, this is considered to be an irrelevant change. So all you have to do, if this actually is true, I don't think it is. I mean, at least dramatic in terms of that much vasoconstriction. But even if it is, all you have to do is add vegetation. And the reason why is because polyphenols are what gives our foods their colors along with carotenoids. And when you add polyphenols to meat, you deflame any inflammatory potential. And that's the easiest way to say it in a brief fashion. So I wrote a paper back in 2012 for this journal, Practical Pain Management, and a lot of references just because this concept is kind of tough for people to appreciate for whatever reason. So you can see these references from 99 down to 103. These were all studies where they added polyphenols to animal products, and that deflamed any pro-inflammatory potential. So one of the first pictures I showed you was red wine, red meat and red wine. Yeah, deflames any pro-inflammatory potential. And even more interesting, you can see increased lean red meat intake does not elevate markers of free radicals activity. Partial substitution of carbohydrate with protein from lean red meat lowers blood pressure, so there's no pro-inflammatory effect there. These are all accessible articles. You can see they brutally demonstrate, or clearly demonstrate, that what Wilks presented in The Game Changers is pure mythology. So you can clearly see it is absolutely another fiction movie by James Cameron. And in fact, if you eat red meat like this, well then you would be consistent with the article that James Wilks says demonstrates how bad red meat is, when in fact it is not. So James Wilks promotes meat eating without actually knowing that he did it, because all you have to do is add vegetation and some vino. If you don't want any vino, vegetation will do it with your animal products, and then there is absolutely no problem. So think about, he talked about this article twice. It is the key article that they use to demonstrate how allegedly bad red meat is. Absolutely amazing. So for me, when I think about The Game Changers, I just am surprised how anyone could take this fiction video seriously, especially a healthcare practitioner who could easily look up one of the articles like I did and in 5 minutes figure this out. And I haven't checked out all of them because I have no interest, but as far as I know, no one's spending time talking about this particular article, which trashes the entire Game Changers position that red meat eating or chicken and fish is going to screw up your body and make you less a less efficient athlete. Now, the problem, too, for them is that they don't understand what meat eating is. They think that if you, their conception of meat eating is ridiculous, and we'll talk about it in another video. So, my suggestion would be to deflame your brain about food. So, look and see at the top here. This is my book. So, I eat meat, but it's not on the cover because the problem that the average American has is way too many of these calories. Now, you know, James Wilks' father has too many of these calories because they basically told us at the end of the movie, James Wilks' father said to one of his family members, I have to have Marcia, I think was the name, remind me to eat my vegetables. So that means that before he changed to being a pure vegan, he didn't eat vegetables. Well, he didn't just eat plain meat. He's from England, and if you've ever been there, they ate a lot of food like this. So James Wilks' father could have just simply eaten some fish, chicken, and meat and pounded vegetation, which is what the average person really should do. So what's the best way to take or the best way to look at diet without getting caught up in all this complete, full Tropic Thunder insanity? And they went full Tropic Thunder on this. And as Robert Downey Jr.'s character said in Tropic Thunder, never go full, and I'll just say Tropic Thunder. So I use the word the deflame diet because it's the outcome. It should be your outcome. And so you can deflame your diet and your body as a vegan, an omnivore, or a carnivore. You can do it pure paleo, you can do it keto. So the deflame approach gives you many options so you not get trapped in the insanity of the carnivore, vegan, ridiculous argument that's going on these days. So what is the key? The key is to remove refined sugar, refined flour, and refined oil calories, and eat only whole foods at a calorically appropriate level, which of course varies from person to person. So you can see the themes on my books so far. Well, it'll always be the same theme. There'll just be more books in the future. So this is the problem. Refined sugar, flour, oil calories. They cause disease. And we know that they are big promoters of cancers. And this book is about breast cancer. The average American female eats too much of this, 60% of her calories. Not even close to this, which is preventive for all diseases, including breast cancer. What about your joints? Your muscles, tendons, spinal discs, bone, nervous system, vascular system. Turns out, same pro-inflammatory calories trash all of those tissues. So all you need to do is remove those pro-inflammatory calories and eat at a calorically appropriate level. You don't have to get rid of all of them. You can have a little bit, but you want to get all your inflammatory markers normal. And the best way, as I said, is to reduce these pro-inflammatory calories. Very, very simple, and you can avoid all the insane ideology as we saw in the Game Changers, where Wilks demonstrated in that article that meat eating is fine. And that is why the Game Changers, or one of the reasons why the Game Changers went full Tropic Thunder.